right, what's up, Sports Talk Detroit? Hey, if you don't know me, I don't know why you're watching this channel, but my name is Craig, and we have a special guest. We're going to get a guest mock draft, and with us, we got TJ. TJ, good to have you here, man. It's been a minute. You used to have your own podcast with your buddy. That's been a few years, but hey, you know the game, you know sports, and you're ready to get on here and talk a little Lions draft, huh?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Craig. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's a blast to have you here. We always like to get other people on the show. Sometimes, I don't want to look at Chris's face every single time I record something, but he is a good guy. I enjoy doing it, but we'll let him have a vacation. We'll bring you in here. We need to have at least one expert on this show. So thanks for joining us. Hey, it's Detroit Lions Super Bowl. It's the NFL draft. Let's go. It's what we have to look forward to every year. And this year there is good reason to be excited with a high pick. And I know we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I'm going to let you share your picks. I'll just kind of riff off of that, but I want the people to hear what you're thinking, because I think you have some really good insight based on the conversations we have. So let's just get rolling with it. With the number 2 pick, who are you taking? Who are the Detroit Lions taking in the 2022 NFL draft?
Yeah, correct. So I think this pick could be open to trade, but there's I think Neil goes to Jacksonville with the first pick to protect Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
And Aiden Hutchinson sitting right there at number 2, filling one of the biggest voids that we have on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
So I think the Lions decided to keep Aiden home and pick the D end out of Michigan.
Pick the D end out of Michigan, says a Michigan State diehard. How does that make you feel when Aiden Hutchinson gets drafted? We're just going to act like it's fact, because you know what you're doing. When Aiden Hutchinson gets drafted by the Detroit Lions, do you still hate him, or do you now love him because he's wearing the Honolulu blue and silver?
I think it's a love-hate relationship. I got the, when Michigan State did beat Michigan this year,
thanks for reminding me.
Completely disrupted the backfield the whole game. And so while he wore the maize and blue, I can respect the fact that you think he was number 4 in the Heisman. He disrupted every game that he played in. He can put his hand in the dirt, but he also can stand on the edge. He can beat somebody going wide, but he also has a strong rip move going underneath. The strength is unparalleled. Not one tackle that he faced this year could stop him. And he was constantly getting double teamed. And the 1-2 punch that Michigan did have allowed not for very many double teams, and he took advantage of it.
Yeah. So why is he your D end when you have both available? Because you think tackle is going first. So why is he the D end of choice? Just quick response to that. I have my thoughts, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, Thibodeau, I think, has higher upside,
sure.
But he's also got a lower floor. I think Aiden Hutchinson, when you have the number 2 pick, you have to hit on it. So do I think Thibodeau, I think, could be better over the course of 10 years.
Sure.
But he was not able to stay healthy. And quite frankly, the motor was not always there in film. So Aiden comes with, I don't know if he's going to be, that Michael Strahan, all pro, but I think that he's going to be able to sustain whatever side of the line that he plays on for a longer course of time.
Yeah, I think with Hutchinson too, and I'm going to even record a couple of videos after we're done with this one talking about Hutchinson and Thibodeau. And I just think he can do everything well. I don't think there's a real weak point to Hutchinson's game. I think Thibodeau could be the better pure pass rusher of the two, which obviously is huge and important. But again, it could be. Right now, he doesn't even do that better than Hutchinson. So I think, like, when you look at everything, Hutchinson is he's a guy who's big enough and strong enough to set the edge, but he also can rush the passer. Like, you don't have to take him out. He's not a pass rushing specialist per se.
Yeah, and one thing I was kind of surprised with is when you looked at Aiden in stand-up. Now, he didn't drop back very often in Michigan, but when he does stand up, he doesn't look awkward with it.
Right.
And that was one thing Thibodeau kind of does. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is a great rusher, but he's been constantly in a 3-4 defense his whole career, and he's a liability once he drops back. Aiden looks a little bit more comfortable.
Sure.
And so right now we're in a 3-4. Who knows how long the coaching staff's going to be around. So if we go back to a 4-3, he fits both of those roles.
It's everything.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a wasted second pick.
Good. That's great. That's good advice. That's good stuff. So speaking of wasted second picks, we have a second pick in this draft, and it comes now. We officially know it is the final pick of the first round, number 32. Who you got?
So holes that we need are a lot on defense. We also need a receiver. But I think defensively, we had liabilities at all three levels. I think Aiden takes care of the big glaring hole. Second level, we also got some weak spots. Top two linebackers are going to be off the board. We also need DB help. So Jalen Petrie, who started this whole process at a low 3, is now creeping up. I like the fact that he does play safety, but he also has the body of a corner and also doesn't mind tackling like a linebacker. So at Baylor, he was really successful playing a nickel slot. The fact that the NFL throws the ball all over the place now, I think he can fill that hybrid role of a safety linebacker position. And I also looked at it in terms of, okay, who are we going to sign free agency wise to kind of counteract that? You don't sign an outside linebacker. They're too highly priced.
Yes, they are.
But we've got a couple good free safeties that potentially could be free agent signings.
Yes.
We just don't have that strong safety. That's a huge weak spot. So to get him in there, he kind of fills both a linebacker and safety role. He's not a liability though when he's facing a slot receiver. So that was kind of my pick on, and plus, I mean, he's a proven, 2021 defensive player of the year in the Big 12.
Do they play defense in the Big 12? Is that a thing?
Oh, apparently, yeah.
Baylor does. I know Baylor does.
Did, yeah. Baylor, out of all 10 teams, they definitely played the best defense.
They play the best defense. So he is proven. There's no doubt about it. It's not a bad pick at all. And I'm going to rate and reserve judgment on this pick until I hear your number 34. So where are you going with number 34? I just want to see how you're pairing these two picks together.
So with that, the reason why I went with Jalen at 32 was Christian Harris is going to be sitting still on the board. He's the number 5 linebacker. So assuming that there was a couple before him, but the fact that he just comes from Alabama, he was a 3-year starter for one of the best defenses in college football. He's a game player. I mean, he just makes plays. He's consistent. The fact that he was, a 3-year starter at Bama says a lot. Doesn't get hurt. I think he's going to be a serviceable linebacker to kind of plug in. Kind of like Aiden. I don't think he's going to be the next Ray Lewis, but I think he has decent cover skills, which is something that we lacked. But then we can just get that force in the middle to kind of counteract the pick with Jalen.
I'm going to say something that I don't know if a lot of people are going to feel good about what I'm about to say. I don't see a huge difference between him and Nakobe Dean. I really don't. And I think everybody just went nuts on Dean when he absolutely obliterated U of M. And so now all of a sudden he's in the spotlight and he looks phenomenal. And he didn't look nearly that fast when he played Alabama 2 weeks later in the national championship. Harris looks fast consistently. And I just think linebackers, it's hard to tell always perfectly, but I think you're getting a much better value for taking him at 32 or 34 than you would be taking Dean earlier in the first round, like a lot of teams are talking about doing. That's just my
and the fact that Devin Lloyd is not just creeping up the draft boards, but he just catapulted up into kind of replacing Dean as that first linebacker in the top 10 that gets taken off.
Yeah.
And once you get past that row, I mean, Dean could drop. And so if Dean's there, great. We always, constantly talking about who's dropping in the first round, and somebody's going to. So it's probably, you've got receivers that you've got linebackers. So I think you're going to have your pick of, if they don't go position of need, picking the best available player, both at the linebacker or receiver.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And the only thing I'm going to say on this is you went defense, which nobody's going to blame you for. Let's just hope we sign a wide receiver in free agency, even though that's a pricey spot. You talked about, you don't want to go outside linebacker in free agency because it's expensive. So is wide receiver. So I think if it were me in my mock drafts, I went wide receiver in one of those two picks. I did David Bell out of Purdue in one of them. And just to make sure we had a wide receiver help there, because I see the same thing with the wide receivers. I don't see a huge difference between the guys being taken between 10 and 20 and the guys that are right around 30. So there's a lot of good ones, but I know you. I think you're a smart guy. So I think you're going to make up for it with the 66th pick here. So talk to me. Where are you going at good old number 66?
So I think at that spot, going defense, the first 3 picks,
Yep.
All fill a position of need, all at different levels of the defense. So the next need is receiver. Knowing that you've got Michael Gallup, you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Christian Kirk, you've got Mike Williams. There's a plethora of receivers that are going to be free agents.
Yes,
that
there
I think
are.
fit that role of the receiver that we need, that tall, lengthy receiver that can play an outside position. So knowing that we might not get Godwin, obviously price tags are going to mean, but I think Mike Evans fills a good role, consistent back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons out in
Absolutely.
LA.
Yeah, it's an important role.
And so I think at 66, there's a couple receivers that I think before injuries would have been up there in the top 30, 35. George Pickens, Justin Ross, and John Michie. At 66, George Pickens, he is rated, I think, the 40th player on the board. Okay. But I think that you're going to get a slew that go first, and then people are going to start filling positions in need. So George Pickens was my pick at 66, 6'3" receiver out of Georgia. Didn't have the blow up years, but Georgia doesn't have a quarterback to throw him the ball. He tore his ACL, I think, in spring camp.
Yeah.
This year, so he only played a couple games this year, but last year he had a really good year.
Yeah, he did.
And so, just watching him against Michigan, the block that he threw on, I can't remember who the corner was, but
we don't need.
You probably remember it better than I do, but I just think he's that other. If we can get a solid receiver in free agency, he's a good rookie. That because we've got St. Brown, another experienced receiver, and then not to say that we could bring Josh Reynolds back. It allows Pickens, Ross, or Michie to kind of fill that and kind of grow into a player just like St. Brown did this year.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said Reynolds' his name, because it was so obvious as soon as he came in. Now, again, this is when they started changing who was calling the plays and all that kind of stuff. But as soon as he came in, the offense just changed the way it looks. When you have a guy who has height that can kind of stretch the field, all of a sudden the offense looked entirely different. So I do think that is a huge need, but we know that this staff can find talent at wide receiver later in the draft. They don't freak out. They don't feel like they need to find it early. So I don't hate waiting till there. I don't know that Pickens is still going to be available at 66, but if he is, I am sprinting to the podium to drop off that card. I'm like, this is it. This is our pick. I'm not even thinking of a trade request on this pick. So.
Well, and also, Justin Ross at that spot too. Honestly, Justin Ross, when he had Trevor Lawrence there, was a stud. And then he had some heart issues or back issues, actually.
Yep.
And then they couldn't get him the ball this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so Justin Ross at that spot too, even if it's a little bit of a stretch, I still think you get a playmaker on the outside. When he did have a quarterback that could get him the ball, he made plays that it didn't matter if they were playing Alabama or if they were playing Wake Forest. He made plays against everybody.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, dude, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. You're busy. I know that. So I do appreciate you making time to get on here and help our show out. And I'm going to talk to some of the fans out there. And I don't know if they're Lions fans. We know they're Detroit fans, hopefully. But hey, if you like the show, hit that subscribe button. And we're thankful for TJ for coming on. But hey, go Lions and enjoy this time of year. This is when we're filled with hopium. See ya.